Okay. All right. Well, no, I mean, you're basically going into our next topic, in which how did the Dolphins fail? And just to recap the Dolphins season, when the season started, the Dolphins were Super Bowl aspiration. They pick up Jalen Ramsey, they pick up Fangio. They were on their way to become the Super Bowl. They had a 9-3 record, and then they lost to Tennessee. They beat the Jets, and then they had a thrilling victory against the Cowboys on Christmas Eve, and they were 11-4, basically on their way to it. They had a three-game lead in the AFC East with 5 games to go, but then they lost to the Ravens, to the Bills, and the Chiefs. So, Pedro, my question to you: do you consider Dolphin season a failure? And if you do, who is the most to blame for this failure?
All right, this is going to be somewhat controversial, but at this point, I do not think it to be a complete failure in the sense that we made it back to the playoffs. Now, where the failure starts and where I believe the failure needs to be addressed next year is to win games against good teams. I don't believe we're going to have a problem next year when it comes to defense. Defense looks like it's going to be pretty good with our defensive minded defensive coordinator. It looks like he's taking this team on to bigger and better places than last year.
Mm-hmm.
We have an offensive minded head coach that looks that he's taken another step forward. Last year we couldn't run the ball. This year we could. Last year the issue the Dolphins had
The
forever is
Dolphins could run
the
the ball last year. They decided not to run the ball.
okay. We could debate that, but I don't think that they had much success running the ball last year. This year they had a lot more success. They took a lot off the plate of the quarterback, and they were able to run the ball more. My issue that I've had forever with this team is the quarterback needs to be able to, whenever everything else breaks down, to be able to go ahead and take the lead and say, you know what, I'm going to put this game on my shoulders, and we're going to go, and we're going to score. We're going to do this. We're gonna do what the quarterback is supposed to do. We saw it done on the other side of the field. Patrick Mahomes, perfect example. So far, everybody thinks that he's the best quarterback in the league, and it's for a reason. When things need to get done, his head coach puts his faith in that quarterback to go out there and do it. Do we have a quarterback that can do that? We don't know yet.
So you would say the failure mostly falls on Tua this year.
Yes, this year the failure fell on Tua because the coach could only put you in the best situation so many times. When things don't go right, you have to find a way to get through. You have to figure it out. And I understand that last year he tried to play hero ball a little bit too much, and that's the reason why he had those concussions. That's why he got hit as often as he did. But you're not always going to be able to get the ball out in less than 2.5 seconds. And what happens after is what determines when the play breaks down what kind of quarterback we have.
Okay. Well, I'm basically more in line to what you're saying, a little bit different in the aspect. I think there's a share. First of all, to answer your question, I do consider the season a full failure, completely. We had the roster of a Super Bowl winning team. We had injuries, but every team has injuries. The Texans, there was a stat that they had more players on IR, double than what the Dolphins had, and they're in the divisional round. So basically, injuries shouldn't be an excuse. This was our year. We had great defense, top 10 defense when healthy. We had a good offense. We had a running game. So I would say the blame here falls on both McDaniels and Tua. On McDaniel's case, there's been several cases in games that I've seen that he doesn't have a good feel. There's cases that they have run the ball and then on consecutive plays, but instead of continuing running the ball, what does he do? He starts throwing. And perfect example this weekend. They had 4 runs, 4, 8, 6, and then 3 yards. It was 3rd and 1. What would you do, Pedro? If you have 4 consecutive successful runs and it's 3rd and 1 with that weather, what would you do, Pedro? Would you run or would he pass?
Run the ball.
You would run the ball. What did McDaniels do? He threw a sling out pass to Monster, in which it was a bad throw by Tua. And then 4th and 1. If you realize the pass didn't go through, you're running the ball. What would he do on 4th and 1, Pedro?
Run the ball.
And instead, they pass. And it was incomplete. So there's been several cases that McDaniel has not have a good feel on the game. Several cases. Also, I think the Dolphins offense is very complicated. It's like I see all offense around the NFL and they have these some easy passes. Just it's nothing bad to just throw some short passes every once in a while. The players, basically it was Tyreek Hill, lesser extent Waddle, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't use any of the other players. Braxton Berrios is a very solid slot receiver. And many in those short yardage play, why not throw it to Berrios? Why not have a play created for it? So I see that it was just too much, really complicated, a lot of motion. And motions are good and it creates mismatch. But it's just too much. There was a play there that they do an RPO and Tua basic could have easily thrown it, to Waddle. Waddle in the back end, Waddle was open, but instead he threw the short pass and it was short. So, but you have to look for the easy play. So it doesn't mean that you have to throw short every time, but it's just the easy play. Just less. So I see the Dolphins too much of a complicated, always rushing. So I think there's a psychological there of the team that needs to fix. And then also I blame Tua. Tua, eh, he's gone through everything. He made great strides this year, but in a way he has regressed. Tua played 17 games this year for the first time. So there was no excuse of injury. But there were several instances in drives against the Philadelphia game. He lost the Kansas City game in that fake with the snap issues. Tennessee, he couldn't finish. Buffalo, he couldn't finish. And mostly that Cowboys game was basically on the run. So it wasn't that it was so much Tua. So Tua has been a major problem with this. And I think that with Tua is just something with the system. Either McDaniels is telling him to feed Tyreek Hill, or maybe Tua is not making the right decisions, or he's forced to make quick decision. Because how do you stop the Dolphins? Once you stop their first read, you see Tua deer in a headlight. He doesn't know where to go. Double pump. That's it. You got him. So similar to what you were saying, that Tua, when the play breaks down, having the ability to look for opportunities, that we haven't seen from it. And there's going to be cases with good defense, they're going to try to take away your weakness. And unfortunately, with Tua, that hasn't happened. So I would say that if Tua and it's McDaniel, and then the next couple of days we'll talk about if we believe that Tua it is an elite quarterback. We'll go more in detail. What can the Dolphins do? But this season has been a total failure on my end. They could have done much better. They got 11 victories only because they had an easy schedule. But if they were to play more better teams, they would have been the same thing.
Yeah, I tend to agree on that. And the only thing I would add is that the Dolphins, when it comes to playing teams that they should beat, they beat them. One exception this year, the Titans. That was an aberration, but they
Remember,
need to.
every team will
Mhm.
have a bad loss.
Yeah,
Every
every
team.
team has it,
But
but
they
they
need to
should
beat the
take
good
care of business.
teams. And that's the main thing. They didn't beat the good teams, so that means they're not a good team.
Yeah.
They are a fraudulent team this year.
They are a fraudulent team. When it comes to, in my opinion, Tua, just like we have everybody has the issue with that with the Buffalo Bills quarterback Allen. He beats himself. That's the because he thinks that he puts the whole everything on his shoulders and he doesn't. And you if you find a way to disrupt him, to do whatever it needs to do to get him out of his comfort zone, he will beat himself.
Okay.
With the Dolphins, with Tua, he doesn't do anything for himself. The system does it for him. And
Okay.
whenever it is the when he it's you anything that's not what was already designed, that's not the design play. What are we gonna do?